You're listening to the BS Podcast Network. Bum, 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 bum. Ba-na-na.
I love just playing and singing music. You know, it's I'll actually, even though I've come from a background of hard rock music, some of my favorite records are just like a guy and a guitar. And I haven't spent that much time in my career doing that, and it's something that I really love to do more of, so doing this show is great. Well, if you do a song where it's just you and a guitar singing it, particularly most of my songs that weren't written that way, it kind of becomes a different song. And I sort of have to go by the rule that if it's a good song with a full band, it's going to be a good song some other way. And some of those songs just immediately translate to picking up a guitar and playing it and singing it. Some of them you kind of have to work it out.
In 2007, he was commissioned to co-write the song You Know My Name for the James Bond film Casino Royale.
Was it all intimidating writing for a Bond film?
A little bit, because their budgets are huge, you know, and I end up with like this sort of editorial staff in my head of different voices, and whoever is paying the money from the film company, their voice is one of them, definitely.
Yeah. Is that a good voice or a bad voice?
It's always a bad voice. It's never that's incredible, that's awesome. Every note you're writing is perfect for the film.
I'm Batman.
Who are you?
My name is
Bond. I'm Batman.
My name's Bond.
James Bond. I'm Batman.
Bond.
James Bond. I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
This is the Batman versus James Bond show. The show covering everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. And now, here's your host, Brian Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of the Batman vs. James Bond show. The name's Thomas, Brian Thomas, and I am your host. And this is the show where we discuss everything related to Batman and James Bond movies. It's great to be back. Oh, yeah. I hope you all have had a fantastic week. Mine was excellent, aside from this morning when I woke up at 3 a.m., thanks to my wife. Thank you, honey. And noted and realized that it was a rainy Monday, which, you know, if you see my post on social media that, you know, I despise Mondays. They're probably one of the worst things of the week. And, but, you know, we got through it. We are here recording, and I have a very, very big show in store for you this week. I am joined by not one, but two special guests we're growing. So joining me on the show this week from the podcast Take Two are Brian, not me, another Brian, and Craig. Welcome, guys. How are you?
Hello, we're doing well. How are you?
I'm peachy. I'm drinking water, and obviously I'm not enjoying an adult beverage tonight. You guys are, I hope, for me.
I am. I have a nice Macallan 12-year Scotch. That's okay on your show.
Oh, that is more than welcome. Man, I was about to say, because it was National Whiskey Day on Saturday, and I'm like, I should know that. I should know that because, you know, Bond loves his scotch. Bruce Wayne, I understand, doesn't drink at all. But, you know, whatever, Bruce Wayne can go wash his tights, you know, whenever he wants to. But, yeah, really, you know, when he's not getting seduced by Catwomen out there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, besides the point, though, it is great to have you guys on the show. If I didn't mention, which I believe I did, I was on Take Two last week. We had, you know, a lot of fun. You know, I'd say a lot of fun, you know, on your show. You know, I had some special guests with me also, which I can't believe I did that on the show. I just kind of, you know, true story. Sometimes even Batman and Bruce Wayne gets nervous, and, you know, I'm not calling myself Batman or Bruce Wayne, but I would just say sometimes I get nervous.
I think you just did.
Yeah, I'm not calling myself in the third person. See, damn it, you guys bring it out of me. I can see what happens. You're like one of my friends who just brings out the worst in me. So they will be joining me throughout the whole show. But before we jump into things, just a reminder, BatmanVSBond.com. That's right, you know the name. It doesn't have a number, but you can go there for all the latest shows and more content. That's right, all the shows are readily available. All you have to do is click on the episodes tab And all the shows are on demand. That's the beauty of podcasting. And you can also find the show on the BS Podcast Network. That's bspodcastnetwork.com. Find my show and a whole bunch of other great shows on there. Now, let's get down to business. In the words of Roger Moore, you've had your 6, Stromberg. Now it's my turn. So before we really get talking to Brian and Craig, I'm not going to quiz them. I wouldn't call this a quiz. I would just say getting to know you, a little background about you. So a few questions to get you guys started off. And, whoever wants to begin, you didn't have to study for this at all. It's okay. I do this to all the guests.
I'm nervous already.
Yeah, wait a second.
If you've listened before, or at least the listeners out there know where I'm going with this. So number one, whichever one wants to start first, what's your favorite Batman film, Brian or Craig? No, we talked about this on your show, but...
We did. Go for it, Brian. That's you.
Dark Knight is mine.
Dark Knight. Okay. Why, may I ask?
The performance of Ledger.
Good choice. Can't go wrong with the Dark Knight. If we have a chance, actually, I want to talk more about the Dark Knight trilogy with you guys. I really wanted your opinion on a article that I wasn't happy when I read, I might say. So I'll tease that for later. So
wow, that was such a tease.
I know. I'm good at that, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Craig. What's your favorite Batman film?
I would have to say the '89 Batman with Keaton and Nicholson.
Nice.
It's the first one I saw. Well, technically not, because I guess I watched the reruns of the '66 TV show before that. But it was definitely the first movie I saw with him, and it was so good. Keaton, seeing him in that role, and I think he did it great. I think Nicholson did great, and it's definitely one of those movies that if it's on TV, no matter what point it's at, I have to sit down and finish watching the movie. And I'm not going to finish whatever I was planning on doing that day because now I have to sit and watch this.
I hear you. I will say this about Batman 89. I think it has, and I want to see what you guys think about this, if the rewatchability or just being able to pick up on that at any part of the movie and just, you can just stop what you're doing. With The Dark Knight, it might be a little harder. But it is one of my favorite Batman movies. It's always between the two. But The Dark Knight, maybe it's because it's a longer movie. It's almost 2.5 hours. Batman 89's 2 hours, and I don't know. I'm not saying it's lighthearted. It's a very dark film, especially Jack's performance in there. But what do you think about that?
No, I agree. It definitely has its humor in it, which I think is a problem with sort of the later Dark Knight trilogies. Like, there's not a lot of humor in there. They put it in, but I think they just did a better job of it in the '89 and especially in Batman Returns. Like, even Keaton had humor in it, and when he was Batman or when he was Bruce Wayne, obviously Nicholson had some humor in there too. Like, I think that's just kind of why I enjoy it a little more without going for the whole full camp of the '66 Batman, but still enough in there to make you laugh and chuckle a few times.
I agree. Yep.
Agreed.
Yeah, but The Dark Knight, it depends on if one of Heath Ledger's scenes are on, you just have to stop and watch that. And if it's on demand or whatever, you can just rewind it. I just want to just stop it, put in the disc, or turn on YouTube and watch a few clips of that because it's just that good. Do you guys have a favorite Batman actor?
That's tough because my initial, I want to say Bale, but I think it's the quality of films that is swaying me. So we spoke about this last week, and I actually thought about it a little thicker. I think my answer for favorite Batman actor is still going to be Keaton, just because of kind of all the things we've already said. It was the initial, it was what really got us into that world and got things going, and you always kind of remember your first Batman, that is. And so
that's waiting for it.
So I think very, very, 1 and 1A for me, but I'm going to go with Keaton.
All right, good choice.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'd have to say Keaton. Sort of the similar reasons. It was the first. It was, the one I remember, and it's still. At any point when I see him in anything, I think Michael Keaton is a very good and oftentimes underrated actor. But still, in seeing him, the initial thought is always Batman. Where Christian Bale, and I think similar to how you first see him, even in Batman, in my mind, there were hints of American Psycho in there.
Yeah, I was about to say Patrick Bateman. Yeah.
Right, that's what I see. I see him sitting there talking about the beauty of his business card while he's wearing the Batman suit. So,
do you like Phil Collins?
If they had, at any point, he was listening to Phil Collins in the Batmobile while he was driving, I think it'd probably have to be the best Batman movie then. matter
Somebody, I'm sure somebody's made a YouTube video of him just rolling around in the tumbler, just, jumping on rooftops. He's jumping on rooftops. And then he's listening to some Huey Lewis, I want a new drug, That would be
And if
funny.
that's not done, somebody needs to do it immediately.
I will leave it to the listening audience. They're more creative than I am. So, yeah. All right. This is one I don't know if we had a chance to talk about. Do you guys have a favorite James Bond movie? Are you a fan of James Bond? Hopefully.
Yes, very much so. I used to think I knew a lot about James Bond until I started listening to this amazing show. And your knowledge trumps mine and my father's.
If I had a ding right now, I would, but I can't. Thank you.
Can I give like a quick top 3? Sorry, Craig. I'm going first.
Sure.
Again.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah, I don't care what you say.
I know you wouldn't, so at least pretend to act like I have power.
I'll go Casino Royale, followed by a quick GoldenEye, and then Goldfinger.
Ooh, very good choices there. Okay. What was the first James Bond you watched? Out of curiosity.
Probably Goldfinger. My dad was humongous into Bond, and so at a young wee age, he started to educate us on the probably too old for our age group, mine and my brother, films that he made us sit down and watch back then. And then Goldfinger's probably ranks high up there because whenever we'd always like wrestle around, we would always do, do you want me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I want you to die. He'd always like drop that line on us. So that was a big fan favorite for us.
Yeah, it's, I still say it holds up. Took my wife, I think I mentioned this on the show before, probably about a couple months ago, to see it in the theaters. And you guys are local also. There's a theater in the Baltimore area called the Senator Theater, and they were doing a showing of Goldfinger. And I've never been to the theater, but it's an old time kind of theater. And of course, seeing an old 1964 movie was very fitting. And, I never watched it on the big screen, and it's just, even though I've seen it so many times, just to watch it on the big screen, and then my wife's never seen it before, and she enjoyed it also. So I'm like, okay, honey, you're still a keeper.
You'll let her still hang around. That's nice.
Well, she kept asking where Pussy Galore is. I'm like, well, she'll be in the movie later, but in the meantime, just enjoy it for what it is. And I think if I'm ever going to introduce a friend or, one of my kids to a James Bond movie, Goldfinger would probably be there, I think. It's a PG movie, but I would say, based on the rating scale now, it's probably more PG-13. Definitely. That's another story for another day. But, Craig, do you have a favorite James Bond movie or movies?
I'd have to say the first one would be GoldenEye, just because that was. I did watch some of the earlier ones. I remember watching Goldfinger when I was younger. Dr. No. My dad was big into the Sean Connery Bond, so we would watch that at home on good old VHS tape. But I'm pretty sure, for me, for what I remember, it would be GoldenEye number 1 as the top, just because I remember, myself going to the theater to see that. And I actually think me and my dad might have gone together, some nice family bonding thing that I'm sure has some sort of innate reason why I like that movie so much. But, I would say, and it's the same thing, even though as much as I enjoyed, things like the Thomas Crown Affair and all that sort of stuff, he's always Bond to me, Pierce Brosnan. Like, that's just sort of who he is now, even in the movies he does now, where he's older, with a gray and white beard, he pretty much still is just an older Bond.
Fully disagree. To me, he'll always be Stu, who stole away Sally Field and Mrs. Doubtfire away from Robin Williams.
That was pretty good. I thought you might have gone for, what was it, Remington Steele? Is that the
Yeah, I
TV
was
show?
thinking that too. I never watched that, but yeah.
I remember my mom watching that.
Stu is more like a thick soup, isn't it?
It was a flying fruit attack.
Yeah, from my fruiting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that was. I don't know if I watched Mrs. Doubtfire. Yes, we're making a Mrs. Doubtfire reference on the Batman versus James Bond show. Deal with it.
Obviously.
I will be doing an episode about that favorite non-Bond, non-James Bond movie roles by the actors we love, and that's definitely going to be at the top of my list. Probably is Mrs. Doubtfire and Thomas Crown Affair. Thomas Crown Affair, he was practically being James Bond. He's just a businessman, and just he's a millionaire and he can bet $10,000 on a golf stroke and just tip over his catamaran and not give a damn. But that's Pierce. Pierce just plays it so well. And the darkest like James Bond I've ever seen is The November Man. I know I've mentioned that on the show before, and that's actually it's a fun movie. It's like, I don't know if it's probably better than some of his James Bond movies. Not as good as GoldenEye, but
but some of the later ones, yes, I definitely agree.
It had a darkness that I'm sure that he wanted to be able to portray, but as I always say, the scripts and the stories that he was given, he only could do so much with. And I can't blame Pierce for that. I really can't. I think that he put 110% into every time he was in James Bond. People could argue that with me with Die Another Day. That's okay, but I don't think that he went in there saying, "Oh, I'm just gonna, just kind of milk it. I'm just gonna throw it in there." He didn't do that at all. But it was very tough for me. I know I'm sidetracking here, but when Daniel Craig came on, or it was announced that, I remember whenever that was, I guess 2005, 2006, when it was announced that he would be taking on James Bond and Pierce is no longer, I was like, it was sad for me, because I'm like, okay, well, I didn't want him to end off like that. I guess we're never ready for that, especially with James Bond, because there's always going to be a new actor doing that. Batman, it sometimes seems like there's a longer time span. I could be wrong. It depends, I guess, nowadays.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember, even when they announced Pierce Brosnan, he was definitely a choice that when it came out, even at that age, I was at 94, 95, so I was 14, 15. I remember thinking, well, obviously, like, that makes sense. He can be Bond, and no matter, prior to that, you already could tell he would be.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Daniel Craig, it's a lot harder. He was not somebody that I would have, picked to be Bond. I think he's great, and I think he's done a great job so far, already, but not somebody that when they announced it right away, I would have been like, oh yeah. Like,
I always remember him as the guy from Tomb Raider, like the love interest in that. I'm like, that guy? Really?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I'll give him a chance, because when the first Bond I experienced was, GoldenEye, and that was, I watched it. I remember, I always say this, at my grandparents' place, and I had no idea what to expect. My dad had his VHS collection of James Bond movies, mainly Sean Connery and a few Roger Moore movies, because it was always a challenge for him to find. And then I'm like, okay, well, James Bond, Dad loves these movies. His saying would be like, all right, I'm going to go turn on a Bond movie and call it a night. I'm like, oh man, I wish I could watch that. And then I finally watched it, and I'm like, this is awesome. And then what came out immediately after that? GoldenEye 64. So that's right. that, like we said on your show, that probably has a lot to do with my love for GoldenEye. And I still can go back and watch that, and it's just that good. It really is. It has all the elements that I believe a Bond film should have. And Xenia on the top.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Let me ask you guys this. Did you, I know I'm jumping around here, but the most recent movies for Batman and for James Bond, one was Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. What did you guys think about that?
I think my response is, which movie? The one that came out in the theaters, or the one that came out on
That
Blu-ray?
is a good answer. Another ding for you. I will say the ultimate cut.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, I think, and I that's one of those movies. I mean, oftentimes I'd say I like the director's cut. I like the one that's released on DVD most of the time when they add in those additional scenes. But that's one of those movies that I legitimately feel if they put that movie out in the theater, everybody would have had a totally different reaction to it.
Yeah,
because I can tell everyone I want to, hey, if you buy the Blu-ray, if you watch it, it's a better movie. The scenes that were cut make sense. It explains things more. But there are people who are just not going to do that. I mean, they'll see it in the theater. They didn't like it. They're not going to go back and watch it again just because I tell them there's an extra 15 minutes in there that makes a difference.
Well, yeah, they didn't like the 2 hour and 20 version. So now you're telling me I got to go watch the 2 hour and 50 minute version.
Right. Of course.
It'll be better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Lazy.
Yeah, I don't blame anyone for passing. I mean, I think even we were a little kind of, I got to watch this because I'm so invested in these characters and my love for them is so strong. But even at that point, I was kind of like, crap, I got to do 3 hours here just to find out what I was missing. And then I literally came out of seeing that for the first time angry. I was upset that the studio did not put that in the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if this is kicking off your entire universe for DC, sorry, we're totally hijacking your show here.
No.
But you're going to introduce a new style of Batman. You're going to forward the Superman. You're going to introduce us to Wonder Woman. DC's going to get behind this, and this is going to introduce it. But no, we have to cut it down because of time. Just put out a 2 hour and 50 minute product. Put out a quality product that people can get behind. And they walk out, they're like, wow, that was long, but man, that was a freaking great film. I can't wait to see The Batman when they do that new trilogy and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that the week that movie was about to come out, I like Man of Steel. I really, really like Man of Steel. Maybe people will say because, oh, well, it is Batman Begins from the same creators, aside from Zack Snyder's, directing. I'm like, yeah, but still, it's such a good story and just the visuals and just everything about it. There's not one thing I really don't like about that at all. And so my anticipation was so high for Batman v Superman. I'm like, all right, well, Snyder can do that. Then I can only imagine what he can do with the Batman movie and then Superman. I'm like, and when I saw it, well, of course, the reviews came out. Of course, everybody knows about Rotten Tomatoes. One of the worst reviewed Batman movies. I think it's below Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. And I'm like,
Really?
what's going?
harsh.
I'll have to check that. But what's going on here? I'm like, something's up because the previews were amazing. Aside from the second trailer, which pretty much spoiled the ending of it with the introduction of Wonder Woman and Doomsday. And I wasn't on board with Jesse Eisenberg. He was okay in Social Network, but I just find him more annoying, especially in the trailers. I'm like, but I did like the red capes are coming. I kind of get a chuckle out of that still. But yeah, when the movie came out, that lowered my expectations. I saw the movie. I'm like, this wasn't what I wanted. This wasn't what I expected, but I don't hate it, but I'm like, I don't know. It could have been so much more. And I think that's the consensus that everybody can say, but there's also a lot of haters that just wanted this thing to fail, and they know who they are, and that's okay. I mean, if that's the
Marvel.
Yeah, pretty much is.
The ones who are lining outside for the Spider-Man movie already.
Well, that too. And there's a lot of Zack Snyder haters out there, I think, also. What do you guys think?
Oh, I agree. I think he's getting in that hole without as bad yet, but he's basically turning into the Michael Bay, sort of this superhero genre. Like, there are people that hate Michael Bay movies no matter what they are now, because they know it's going to be a giant Transformers explosion movie or something related to that. And I think Zack Snyder's starting to have that same sort of, hatred against him just for, having movies that, oftentimes are slightly similar, but yeah, it's hard. Because I agree. I had a lot of expectations for it. And I think the way that especially even it started with the start of Batman vs. Superman being the end of Man of Steel, I thought was brilliant. Like, I loved that part, and I'm sitting there trying to, explain to my wife, who had not seen Man of Steel, what is happening and why this is, such a cool thing to see on the screen. And she tells me to shut my face and whatever.
Yeah. And then came Suicide. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to piggyback on Zack Snyder. They just announced today, that he's stepping away from Justice League and Joss Whedon is taking over because of family tragedy.
Really?
And I was reading, some of the, that could be breaking news for your show.
That is breaking news. Thank you.
Breaking news!
Breaking news, whatever it feels like happening. You guys know that quote. That's a local one for you guys there.
Yeah. Family tragedy, Snyder family thing. I didn't read into what, but hopefully everything's okay. But Joss Whedon's going to take over with all the post production for now. And the first set of comments were good. Glad Snyder's gone. Thank goodness. Maybe Whedon can fix it. Stupid stuff like
I hope his family's dead. Like,
that's the.
People go way too hard.
Take a flying something. I won't say on the show because I want to keep it kid friendly for the most part. But okay. Snyder knows how to. He can take a comic book and put it on screen. He can definitely do that visually. When it comes to a story, though, I think he has to be he has to have like a leash on him, if that makes sense. If that script isn't, written by somebody, we'll say, Nolan and David S. Goyer. I know David S. Goyer did have a hand in Batman v Superman, but, Nolan was there producing, kind of overseeing it more. Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice was Zack Snyder unplugged, and, in his mind, and I know he said in interviews, he thought it was going to go over better with audiences, and I guess that's what he thought was good. I don't think he went out to make a really bad movie at all. I don't see him doing that at all. Yeah, he uses CGI a lot. That does bother me because I know when I'm going to go back and watch that film in 10 years, maybe even 15, I'm going to say, you know what? That's not going to hold up, at least with the Batman 89 or the Dark Knight. Those are more practical effects, and that's maybe me being old school. But just seeing the Batmobile chase in Batman v Superman, it's a great chase. It really is. Seeing the the Batplane in there. Great, it's very cool to see that, him shooting at Doomsday, but some of that kind of stuff, I worry it doesn't hold up. Which also is with, James Bond movies, because I liked how they use more practical effects. I know mine is dying another day. But yeah, going back to Snyder, I'm reading this right now. It says Zack Snyder steps down from Justice League to deal with family tragedy. The filmmaker's daughter died by suicide in March, prompting him to take a break from work and hire Joss Whedon to finish the Warner Brothers superhero epic. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. Quoted, "I've decided to take a step back from the movie to be with my family, be with my kids who really need me." Wow, that's a shame.
That's rough.
Wait, his daughter committed suicide? That Jesus.
Wow.
Well, now I feel horrible talking bad about him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a shame. Yeah.
Thoughts and stuff with his family. That
absolutely.
Is sad.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's look at it this way now. Okay. So we know from a fan perspective, or from a hater perspective, especially out there, there's a lot of people that are happy that he's stepping down. Justice League, what you guys, from the trailers that you've seen so far, what do you think? Do you have lower expectations now after you've seen Batman v Superman, even the Ultimate Cut?
You go ahead, Craig. I've started all.
I would say that I have lower expectations, not necessarily even because of Batman Superman, but because of Suicide Squad. Because that trailer was so good, and I was so excited to see that movie. And then seeing it was not what I was hoping it was. It was not, it did not end up being anywhere near as close as good as I thought it would be based on the trailer. So I'm trying to temper my expectations and my excitement for it. But I mean, it's, the latest trailers that come out, seeing, what is looking like a buddy cop film between Aquaman and Batman, like with him riding on the Batmobile to like dive, like that looks
so
amazing.
Cool, though. It's so
cool. It does. It looks so good.
Yeah.
It looks so good. And then, when he comes out and he's like, oh, just like a bat, I dig it. Just that kind of, like, I like that. I like, as much as I was not a huge fan of them to try and going for like a different Flash instead of the TV show, which I enjoy.
Me too.
I like how they're, the way they're doing the Flash, and with the whole thing of, him going to see him, and like, I like that they're actually getting a little bit of humor into this, which obviously Ben Affleck can do.
Yeah.
But it still looks like it's going to be a good action movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks like they're kind of learning their lesson as far as with BVS. They showed way too much in the multiple trailers that they gave us.
Yeah.
So I think, they've scaled it back a little bit. They're not giving us a ton of plot point, which is great. I'm all for that. That's helping right now. But I agree. I think everything's just being kind of, we'll see. These trailers look fantastic. They look awesome. I'm getting jazzed up. But thanks to Suicide Squad, thanks to the overabundance of trailers from BVS, I'm going to wait. I'm still pumped for it. Still want to see it, but let's see the product once it comes out.
Yeah, Suicide Squad, going to that, well, I was watching a little bit of that over the weekend, and the characters I love the characters in there, I really do. For what they're used for, that's a different story, or the story that they're in is pretty much Ghostbusters 3.0. It really is. It's a shame. It really is, because I was more anticipating that movie than Batman v Superman. Maybe because I'm a Margot Robbie fan. I don't know. I wanted to see what the new Joker was going to be like. The Hot Topic Joker. Will Smith being Will Smith. I like Will Smith. If we're talking about Michael Bay movies, then Bad Boys. I'm one of my favorite action movies. I mean, that
course,
and
yes,
Bad Boys too. And to see him playing Deadshot, especially, seeing Deadshot in the Arrowverse, I'm like, okay, well, I can't wait to see what his spin's going to be on this. And David Ayer, knowing that he's the writer of Training Day, and I know that, he's had some hits or misses, but I know the guy can direct a movie, and I was really anticipating that. I'm like, okay, let's take a break from Zack Snyder, and let's see what somebody else has, to see, what their directing can do, or to bring to the table. Excuse me. And yeah, it's a shame once again, the poor reviews and then the lower anticipation for this. I'm like, okay, well, here we go again. And now here we are with Wonder Woman. We're only about a couple weeks away from that. I know I'm excited for this. I think you guys are too. I don't know if we talked about it in the show. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think and every review that's coming out now is looking very positive, and I mean, it looks good. The trailers look good. The action looks good. Like it looks like it's going to be some pretty epic fight scenes and stuff like that. I think the only thing I worry about, and I get into this a lot on our show, is I feel that there probably is some sort of agenda. Anyone who is a movie reviewer who comes out and says that they don't like Wonder Woman because it's not a good movie will probably get called a female hater and that they're sexist and, they just don't want to see a female driven, superhero movie. So I worry that people are being, overly praiseful for this movie when it might be good, but I worry that people are saying it's good, even though it may not be as great as they're saying.
Yeah, I have two concerns. That, and it feels like a lot of critics, especially after like BVS came out, have an agenda of their own. It might have to do with their employer, i.e., Disney owns a lot of critics because they work for their company because they have a lot of branches and therefore, they're Marvel laden and such. So that is a concern, like you just said. And the other concern is that her armpits are shaved, which I find ridiculous because she's from.
That's horrible. So
they were walking out. What are you talking about? Yeah, I'm looking at some of the reviews before I go into them. Same thing kind of last year because we had a all-female Ghostbusters. Yeah, I mentioned Ghostbusters again on the Batman vs. James Bond show. You don't change your channel. A female-driven film or female-led film. Well, that was a man director, but this is female director, female lead star in here, and a lot of people weren't on the Gal Gadot bandwagon. I was, like the chick from the Fast and the Furious. I'm like, she's okay. Well, I mean, we didn't see a lot of screen time from her in there, and the part that they did use her, I was like, I can't picture her as Wonder Woman. I really can't. And I didn't even watch the Wonder Woman TV show, I guess, because I didn't watch really any of the Batman 66 series either. Nothing against it, just that I was busy watching Knight Rider. That's the truth. When it's
A-Team and stuff, yeah.
Oh yeah, and Airwolf and Hardcastle McCormick.
Airwolf,
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Hunter occasionally, absolutely. You guys are just doing this on purpose now. So some of
Knight Rider become the greatest middle school principal of all time.
I know,
Mr. Feeney. Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
William Daniels. Yes. One time I'll have to do a Knight Rider versus Batman episode. I really will get to that eventually.
If your listeners haven't realized already, me and Brian's goal is to get Brian from this podcast as off topic as possible.
It's so easy.
You get him into so many different tangents of things that are not Batman or James Bond, just for our own personal enjoyment.
Actually, it might work out well. Anyone that wants to listen to Batman and James Bond talk, go over to Take Two podcast because that's what we did on our show.
Sure.
That's all we talked about the other day on our show. So for this one, you'll get our stuff.
Ooh, okay.
Right,
I will make one George Clooney Batman quote on here. This is why Superman works alone. So some of the quotes or some of the tweets, now there's still an embargo out there for Wonder Woman reviews. So people or the review critics could come out and say something pretty nice, or they could just make their own comments on there. But, you don't want to be too harsh just yet. But most of them were actually very positive. A lot of them were comparing them to Captain America, the First Avenger, coincidentally. Speaking of Disney, this one from Haley Fouch. Wonder Woman is easily the best DCEU movie so far. And I know what a lot of people are going to say that, well, we've had Man of Steel, which I will, be one of the few that say that's an excellent movie. Batman v Superman, understandable. And Suicide Squad, understandable. Steve Weintraub from Collider.com. Happy to report Wonder Woman is a blast and Gal Gadot is fantastic. Her chemistry with Chris Pine is magnetic. Absolutely recommended. Perry Nemiroff, can't say I loved all Wonder Woman, but there's a ton of great stuff, especially Gal Gadot, Chris Pine. Let's see on here. One guy, Mike Ryan, love Wonder Woman. She reminds me of Christopher Reeve's Superman, true North superhero with no angst or cynicism, which is needed right now. And speaking of that, I know Patty Jenkins has mentioned multiple times that she's a fan of the original Superman movies. So I can already see in the trailers when she's blocking it, with her, I guess, was it that, or not her gauntlets, but, what do they call them? What she wears around her wrist.
Yeah, the armbands or whatever.
Yeah, the armbands. She blocks the bullet in there. Christopher Reeve's Superman did something like that in the movie also. So, I have to say, What's that?
So we're three guys. What's that jewelry she calls? I don't know what they're called.
I don't know.
Exactly.
Bangles.
Bracelets or something.
You're listening to Guy Talk on the Batman versus James Bond show. I will admit that these reviews, get me a little bit more excited about this. I'm more relieved in a way. I know a lot of people out there are relieved. I want this movie to be good. I know a lot of people want this to be good, but when you say it's the best so far in the DCEU, I'm like, well, I wish you would have said something more along the lines like it's almost as good as Batman 89, almost as good as The Dark Knight Rises even. But,
right. Or compare it to contemporary Marvel movies to see where you're falling in line with those,
Right.
Is it as good as, are we talking Captain America, Guardian Galaxy, or are we talking, something a little lower like Iron Man 3?
Right.
You got to figure out where that falls in there. So
exactly. I know I'm going to go see the movie. Like I said, I want this to be good, and I still feel that the shared universe concept is not something that the DCU or DC Comics and Warner Brothers needed to do. That's why they are where they are right now, because they're trying to compete with Marvel. And now, looking back at Justice League, you have a director from Marvel who's going to be taking over for Justice League, and that would be oh, come on. I just mentioned his name. Joss Whedon. I mean, how ironic is that? A movie that is so heavily going to be compared, if it hasn't been already, to the Avengers, and you're having the director from the Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron taking over that work for Zack Snyder? Wow. That's interesting. That's very interesting, to say the least.
Right, and they already have him lined up to do the Batgirl movie, too, for 2019, I think they're talking about.
Right, right.
So he's already slated to do that, too. So, I mean, this is just dipping his toe in the DCU before he even has to do his own movie, which I think is just going to be beneficial to the Batgirl movie.
And the words of the Joker, we're going to have tryouts. That's what it is, really. And I think that they know it's a very smart move by Warner Brothers, to put him on there, because we know that he can handle a movie of this caliber. Obviously with the Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron, I really enjoyed. I'm not saying they're my favorite movies, but I know that when you're having casts like that and you're having, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, whatever you want to call them anyway, the B Squad. I'm sorry. I had to throw that in there. I don't always throw a jab, but when I do, I just kind of sneak it in. I will say that I'm relieved about this. I will say that, I'm almost anticipating this a little bit more. I'm not talking bad about Snyder. I know we don't want to do that right now, but the truth is, though, that this, I wonder if this is going to increase anticipation for Justice League. Now that what the Marvel fans are doing right now, the nerds are probably kicking their beanbag chairs and their Xboxes or throwing them across the room right now. I can't believe that DCU or Joss Whedon's a traitor. They're probably going to make a meme out of that from the Star Wars guy. Traitor!
Right. Well, and the thing is, too, is people can be as upset and they can be as angry online as they want to be and stuff like that. But every single one of these guys who is complaining is going to go see the movie.
Oh, yeah.
They can complain all they want about it, but they're all going to be there opening weekend, even if it's to go online right afterwards and talk about how much they hate it and how much Avengers was better. They're still going to go get their money from them. So
I'm reading right now, the very first thing that Whedon has done is added a line to the script of Batman saying, "That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry."
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this. What do you think about the whole MCU versus DCEU? What is with all this? I mean, can't we all just get along? I mean,
I grew up a hardcore Superman fan, and I never once hated Marvel. Like, I read X-Men, loved Wolverine at the same time. I've never thought of these as a competition. I get it. I get why there's a rivalry and a competition, but for me, I'm just bag of popcorn and enjoying the ride, because it's fun to watch these guys make all these films. It's a blast.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the problem comes down to is for years, and I think all three of us are in the same boat, for years, nerds were losing. Like, if you wore a Batman or a Superman or, a Deadpool t-shirt or a Wolverine t-shirt when we were all, 10, 15 years old, you were a loser. Like, that's just kind of the way it was. Yeah. You were laughed at, but now
it's now turned into therapy hour.
Right. Exactly. Sorry. I'm laying down on my couch as I tell you guys this.
It's like you're in my head right now, man.
But now nerds have sort of won, the biggest grossing movies that everybody is in line to see and everybody is excited to talk about are about comic books and superheroes and stuff like that.
Right.
Which is, ridiculous if you think back 10, 15, 20 years. But nerds, I think, still have that inner hurt that they were made fun of, that they need to get out. They have to fight with somebody. And since they're winning here, they're like, well, we just got to fight amongst each other.
I will say this. I believe there's a difference between, say, nerds and trolls. The nerds are like the real diehard fans. And yeah, I can say I've been a Batman fan since I watched Batman 89. And that's what I watched in kindergarten when it came out. When it comes to Marvel, they had more of the cartoons on there. I mean, yeah, they had the Batman animated series, and I did watch that also. I remember watching X-Men. I remember watching the Spider-Man on there. And last thing I really could care about is like, oh, well, I'm going to watch this only because it says DC or Marvel. Now it's like, oh, well, if it's a Marvel movie, then, everybody's divided into their own sides, and it's like politics almost, which I hate already. And, I'm more picky now about the movies I see, especially with the MCU, because I do feel that they have a certain template. Aside from when it's like one of the Captain America movies or an Iron Man movie. But I am more DC, obviously, but I will say that when some of these, if DCEU, ends up picking up with, releasing more movies, I might be a little bit more picky with that. But at the end of the day, I just want to see a good movie. And Logan, I will say, was a great movie. That's a Marvel one. Deadpool, one of my favorites. It really was. They're awesome movies. And like, if it says Marvel, I don't really give a rat's ass. I really don't.
No, it's a movie based on, a comic book that I used to read, or a t-shirt that I own, or, something like that. Like, I'm going to go see it no matter what. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Craig and I have fun because as long as we've known each other to be a big Batman and myself a big Superman fan. So we go nonstop with the busting each other's stones. And the same that we do with anyone that loves Marvel versus our DC. But at the end of the day, we're just enjoying it. It's a blast.
Yeah. And I know when I go to the Comic Cons, I have a blast, especially, when I used to dress up as Batman. We're still waiting on the other suit, to be continued. But, I know that I will joke around with, if I see a Captain America walking around, which I always see at least one or two around Comic-Con, I will say, "Hail Hydra, Cap." And I have so much fun with that. If I see Spidey, I'm like, Spidey, you little jerk, you get to move around and I can't even turn my neck. I mean, come on, that's not fair. But we all have a good time. If you go to a Comic-Con, especially for those of you, because the Comic-Con season is actually in full swing right now, and you guys are going to the Comic-Con in DC. It's Awesome Con, right?
Yeah,
correct. Yes.
Yeah, I'll be there also. I'll be hiding from you guys. But everybody else will say hi to.
Okay.
but at the end of the day, where I was going is that we're all fans of the same thing. We always want these. If you don't want a film to succeed, well, then okay, that's up to you. But you just don't see the film. But if you're going to act like a little jerk about it, keep it to yourself, or whatever.
I agree.
Stay away from chat rooms.
And without getting too far off topic, but I've been meaning to ask you this, Brian, when you went to the Comic-Cons in your Batman costume, I mean, to me, the best cosplay I ever saw were the couple that would walk around dressed as Bruce Wayne's parents. And anytime they saw a Batman, they would lay down dead in front of him.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So, did that ever happen to you while you were walking around the Comic-Con? So to me, that those two people win every cosplay ever. Like, that's just genius to me.
They do, but I've been starting to get more the Martha thing, where were the drugs going, that kind of deal. Those have been the main ones, but Bane, I almost have to go up to Bane now and say, dude, I need you to just grab my hand and like pick me up. Like, what? I'm like, dude, just do it. Deadpool though, the best one I've ever seen is a Deadpool who bought this, like this dog collar. It says pudding on it. And he's like, I got this idea if you're up for it. I'm like, yeah, sure. What do you want? So he's like, I want to wrap this around your neck and I want to get a picture of it. So I'll have to send this out for like a Throwback Thursday or something. But Deadpool was choking me out with a Harley Quinn pudding, dog collar. And I'm just acting like I'm choking. And that's my point though. You could have so much fun with that. But no, I know none of the, no one's ever come up to me and acted like they were, Thomas Wayne or Martha at all. But I'm waiting for that day. I'm going to dread that day. I really am. But yeah.
Well, obviously, we know now what me and Brian are going to dress up as Awesome Cop for.
That's done. That's sold.
Who's going to be Martha? I know who Martha's going to be.
Brian, obviously.
I was going to reverse that. I really was.
We'll trade off. Halfway through the day, we'll go to the bathroom and switch costumes. So
sounds good.
We can both get a chance to get the breathability of a dress.
I'm on record as saying I was never happier to see Martha Wayne die than I was in BVS because I hate Maggie on Walking Dead so much, and the same actress is playing her. And Martha, when she died, it was the only time in my life I was happy to see Batman's mom die. I was like, yes, finally she's dead. But that's Walking Dead. Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay.
It was the only time out of the 9 or so origin stories that they keep showing on the big screen that you're happy.
Mm-hmm. Well, if this makes you feel any better, and I know people aren't going to want to hear this, but in The Dark Knight, I was actually kind of not happy, but I wasn't upset that Maggie Gyllenhaal's Rachel Dawes died. There you go.
Right.
Yeah, I was like that was the weakest part of the movie for me.
I have a thing against Maggie's. I just realized that because I hated her too there.
There you go.
I was glad she died in that too because I loved Katie Holmes in that character so much more than her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, didn't even watch Dawson's Creek, but I'm like, you know what? I talked about this with somebody online. I said Katie Holmes was just. I'm not saying she's a better actress. I'm just saying she played that role better. So.
Correct. And when Brian says he talked with somebody, it was me, but that's okay that he doesn't remember that. But yeah, she was Joey Potter.
Who?
What?
Online stalker number 7. What?
Right. I'm trying to rocket to number 1 as much as I can.
One day.
All right. Well, here's one that you can comment on. A couple quick news stories. Then we move into the tournament recap real quick. Alicia Silverstone wants to play Batgirl again. I'll let you guys simmer on that for a second. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
I don't need a second. Nope. I'm good.
Nope. Gonna pass on that. Yeah, she said that she would like she was reflecting on her Batman and Robin role. She said, I was just a baby. It was a different thing, but I had fun back then, and I think it would be fun to do it again. Joss Whedon, if you are listening to this podcast, just say no. Just say no.
Yeah. I mean, I will be all for her having a cameo of some sort.
Yes.
In the Batgirl movie.
Yeah. All right. I'd be down with that. Yeah.
As her mom or, somebody. Like I have, the mayor, whatever she wanted to be.
Girl who crashes her Jeep into the back of a car and then, something like that. Yeah, sure.
Exactly. Or if she just wants to reenact the Amazing video.
Stop it. Gosh darn it, Craig was my next joke.
God, you guys. And to get serious real quick, there was a passing over this past week of musician, singer Chris Cornell. He died, unexpectedly at the age of 52. He was best known for his Bond theme song to Daniel Craig's first Bond film, Casino Royale, entitled You Know My Name. Producer Barbara Broccoli commented Chris Cornell ushered in the new era of Bond with his adrenaline-fueled song, You Know My Name. He was a gentleman and a true artist, and he loved every moment of our collaboration with him. Michael G. Wilson, and the entire Bond family mourn his tragic loss. Composer who worked with him, David Arnold, also commented, Chris obviously had a voice that could kick a wall down, something that Daniel could physically do, so it felt like it was an interesting match. And even Daniel Craig commented that it was very, very sad news, and my thoughts are with his family. So it's a tragic loss. If you guys I can't think of anybody who really hasn't seen Casino Royale, but if you are a Batman fan, I guarantee you will love Casino Royale, and definitely the theme to that was written by David Arnold and Chris Cornell, including the song You Know My Name, and it really adds a lot to that. I always think of that as kind of like an FU to the trolls out there that didn't want to, welcome Daniel Craig as the new James Bond. It used to be Not My Bond, Blonde Bond, whatever.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But that song, I know I listened to it among a lot of Bond fans over and over again, and it still holds up. It's that good of a song. So may he rest in peace. All right. Moving on here. I did want to talk about this. I know that a few of you are following me, with the Wonder Woman tournament 2017 out there. This is a tournament that I continue to figure out. I can't figure out, let me say, because every time I think somebody's going to vote for something, they just do a complete 180 and they just surprise me. not like you guys. You guys surprised me, but in a different kind of a way. You could take that for what it's worth. We finished up the week 3 of round 1, so we are finished up with round 1. Want to do a quick recap of the results for that. Magna versus Paris Carver. Paris Carver from Tomorrow Never Dies did win. Terry Hatcher does proceed to round 2, 67% to 33%. Speaking of Batgirl, Batgirl has a lot of love out there. Maybe it's because Alicia Silverstone, very easy on the eyes, as is all the women in this tournament. Not the reason I'm doing this, of course, but Batgirl.
Oh, that would be sexist.
Yeah, that really would be. Don't tell my wife. Batgirl came in at 64% to Octopussy, played by Maud Adams, at 36%. I thought that Maud Adams, because she is obviously an attractive woman, especially in her day. But Batgirl, I thought that all the hate, I guess you could say, that Batman and Robin gets, I didn't think a lot of people would go for that. But what do you guys think about that?
I mean, I think at least me personally, the reason that Alicia Silverstone won is based on the Instagram pictures you put up, which was Alicia Silverstone in the skin-tight Batgirl outfit, and then Octopussy just wearing a robe, which, while was very nice, you can't beat the skin-tight Batgirl outfit.
True. I had to be subtle about it. I really did.
Right.
There's no other way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It was out of the schoolgirl outfit. I had no choice.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Next time.
There probably would have been something wrong with that in some way to put on.
Sure, there would be. Yes. No. Okay, moving on here. This is another surprise for me. Christmas Jones from The World Is Not Enough, played by Denise Richards, versus Dr. Chase Meridian from Batman Forever, played by, Nicole Kidman. And Dr. Chase Meridian won at 67% to 33%. Another surprise for me. I thought there would be more Denise Richards fans out there as opposed to Nicole Kidman, but once again, I was wrong. Thoughts?
This goes to my theory that once you've seen one of these girls naked, it ruins it for you. And so I think since Kidman has always, in her other films, kept covered up, it keeps the allure alive, whereas Denise Richards, as we all know, and if you don't know, you should look it up, we've seen more nude, so I think maybe that's what gave Kidman a little sway.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm more surprised, as Brian said, with this, because anyone that has seen Wild Things with Denise Richards, I don't know why you wouldn't just choose her automatically for any choice in any competition ever. Was that a snort?
Yeah, sorry, I stopped listening.
I was going to say, it wasn't me. No, I keep my snorts to myself. All I will say is that Dr. Chase Meridian does proceed to round 2, and Christmas will only come once a year. Moving on. There it is. Okay. Ruby Bartlett, she was from On Her Majesty's Secret Service, versus Natalia Semyonova. This one I called right away. Natalia Semyonova, 69% to 31%. Need I say more? Going through these really quickly. Andrea Anders from The Man with the Golden Gun, also played by Maud Adams, was shut out again, this time versus Selena Kyle's Anne Hathaway, Selena Kyle from The Dark Knight Rises, 69 to 31. Yeah, I know there's love out there for Anne Hathaway, and I know a lot of people don't mention her Catwoman, but wait till you see what's going to be happening for this round 2. I think you guys will enjoy this match that's going to be coming up. Aki from You Only Live Twice versus Plenty O'Toole. Aki from You Only Live Twice ended up winning versus Plenty O'Toole, 60 to 40%. I thought Plenty's Plenty would be enough for her to win, but obviously not. I guess maybe a lot of people are like myself and don't like Diamonds Are Forever. I don't know if they didn't like her performance, but I'm sorry, Plenty, you will not be winning this one. Pam Bouvier versus Jill Masterson, the Golden Girl versus the girl from License to Kill. Pam Bouvier won 55% to Jill Masterson, 45%. The iconic Golden Girl lost. What is wrong with you people? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I like Pam Bouvier. Believe me, I License to Kill was my guilty, diehard Scarface James Bond movie, but damn, that's a surprise for me. It really is. Moving on here. Sylvia Trench from Dr. No, the very first on-screen Bond girl, versus Camille Montez from Quantum of Solace, played by Olga Kurylenko. Lost. It was 57% to 43%. Camille lost. That's right. Olga Kurylenko lost versus Sylvia Trench. So that was a shocker for me. Lucia Sciarra versus Talia al Ghul. Monica Bellucci versus, oh my god, who played Talia al Ghul? I'm drawing a blank right now. Anyway, she was in Dark Knight Rises and Inception. She lost to, no surprise. I figured Monica Bellucci, she has a huge following on Instagram and social media. Just inched her out by 51% to 49%. So Lucia Sciarra will proceed from Spectre. The next one is BB Doll versus Fiona Volpe. BB Doll was in For Your Eyes Only, but lost to Fiona Volpe from Thunderball 20 to 80%. Almost a shutout there. And the final one was Moneypenny, played by Caroline Bliss from The Living Daylights and License to Kill versus Rosie Carver from The Living Daylights. Not many people like this match, but Moneypenny by Caroline Bliss did go and win 83 to 17%. Excuse me.
Yeah,
all right.
I think it's hard to not vote for Moneypenny pretty much when she's up there.
Any Moneypenny, yeah. But this is where Moneypenny, we're moving it around too. A quick preview of what's to come, and I will make sure I tweet this out. So next week it's gonna go for on at least for 2 weeks, because this is actually the Sweet 16 already. So it's going to be Honey Rider versus Madeline Swan, Stacey Sutton versus Solitaire, Strawberry Fields versus Corinne DeFore, Vicky Vale versus Eve Moneypenny, which Craig, I think it was you. See, I do listen, that you said that's going to be one of the harder matchups.
That is. That's going to be rough.
I know something about Vicky Vale, growing up as a little boy, that I think that I'm not the only one who's going to have the same sentiments, or the same feelings, shall we say. So, but Eve Moneypenny, man, she was good. She really was. Wonder Woman finally makes her appearance. That's right. Wonder Woman wasn't competing in round one because she is Wonder Woman. She didn't have to. She will be competing versus Mary Goodnight from The Man with the Golden Gun. I think Wonder Woman's going to win in that. I really do. Moneypenny, played by Samantha Bond from the Pierce Brosnan era, versus Cara Milavoy from The Living Daylights. I'm going to go with Cara Milavoy because this is a silent following out there, and the more I've done this show, I've realized that there is a huge following for Cara Milavoy, so we will see for that. Harley Quinn versus Moneypenny Louise Maxwell. Harley Quinn could just dominate this whole thing. She really could. Who doesn't love Harley Quinn?
Right. Exactly.
My wife, because of how much I talk about her.
Yeah, my wife too. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And God forbid I get a picture with a Harley Quinn at a Comic-Con. What were you doing with Harley Quinn? Oh, don't worry, dear.
Independently, I was a huge Margot Robbie fan for similar reasons. And then when she was cast as Harley Quinn, my wife immediately forbade me from seeing that film.
Yeah, The Wolf of Wall Street. Oh, damn good movie. Really is. Okay, Solange Demetrius versus Xenia Onatop. It's probably going to be Xenia Onatop. A lot of fans out there of her. Vesper Lynn versus Poison Ivy. I know who I want to win in this, and I think Ava Green fans will, come out to vote for this one. There was a lot of love for Uma Thurman, but yeah, I think it's going to go to Ava Green's Vesper Lynn, Casino Royale.
I bet if Uma was in a better film, that she would have gotten more love.
Yeah, I think so too. She did get a lot of love in this last one. I didn't expect her to win, but then I was like, oh yeah, there are a lot of Kill Bill fans out there, Pulp Fiction, all Tarantino films. So yeah,
I think her love was more based on her other bodies of work.
I think so also, yeah. Tatiana Romanova versus Severin from Skyfall. I think it'll be Severin in that one. Paris Carver versus Batgirl. So now you have Terry Hatcher, who's playing in a Supergirl TV show, versus Batgirl. I will still say Alicia Silverstone for the win there. Let's see here. We have, here it is. Selena Kyle versus Selena Kyle. No, you did not hear me incorrectly. It is Michelle Pfeiffer versus Anne Hathaway. Ooh, I think Michelle Pfeiffer, boys. What do you think?
That's an easy one, Michelle Pfeiffer. Me.
Yeah, Michelle
definitely.
Pfeiffer. Yeah.
Definitely.
No disrespect to Hathaway, but...
No, there wasn't enough stitching in her costume to make it as good as Michelle Pfeiffer's.
Okay. Aki versus Pam Bouvier. I'll probably go Pam Bouvier. I think more people are a fan of License to Kill. Sylvia Trench versus Lucia Sciarra. Once again, I think Monica Bellucci fans will definitely dominate in that. And Fiona Volpe versus Moneypenny, Caroline Bliss. I think there are more Fiona Volpe fans from Thunderball out there. So I will make sure I tweet that out this week so you guys can check it out. The polls will begin again on this Wednesday. round 2 will probably last for a couple weeks, I would say. We'll see how many matches we can get in there. Really quickly for birthdays, because I know we are very short on time. Michael Lonsdale celebrates a birthday on May 24th. He played Hugo Drax in Moonraker. Did you guys see Moonraker?
Yes.
Did you like it?
Yes.
It's a guilty pleasure for me. It's one I can just turn on and just enjoy because of Hugo Drax. That's probably the main reason I like it so much, because I love his villain. Can I interest you in a, oh man, how do you say, cucumber sandwich?